Hey everybody, Johnny Eddie here, obviously. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about some comments that appeared in the last video that I did. So the user YoByAxe, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, says two things in his comment. The first is, I still say you two should not be fighting each other. That's the first part of his comment. And he's right. You know, whatever disagreement between Paul and me exists, it's kind of, if it's a personal issue, that shouldn't be publicly aired, and as far as I'm concerned, that's done. And of course, the second thing that YoByAxe says in the same comment is, feminism is the real enemy. And I can see why a lot of people think that, but I don't think it's correct. I don't even believe that feminism is its own movement. It's simply, well, you look at it, if you look at feminism in history, the goals change, right? As the goals are achieved, they move forward, and that they're abandoned, they're forgotten. And then the new goal is moved forward. And as feminism progresses, as it attains more ground and achieves its, quote, goals, the goalposts are always moved forward so that there's always oppression to be fought, right? It's not actual oppression, it's just inconvenience. And everybody has inconvenience, but of course, in the world of feminism, only female-facing inconvenience is real, and it's massive oppression equivalent to being locked in a prison camp or something. But I don't believe that feminism is its own movement. It is just a tool for eroding the civil rights of human beings and impoverishing the public. Because the more impoverished and starved of civil rights that people are, the more power the state has. Feminism is a tool of the state. Now, a lot of people are going to think that I've suddenly put on my tinfoil hat and gone off into utopian, libertarian, cuckoo land. Think about what modern feminism would actually be if it didn't have funding and organizational support from government institutions. It would essentially not exist. The feminists would have to have logically sound arguments, which they don't. The fact is, they have a monopoly on discourse in the university environment. They largely have a monopoly on discourse in the public sector. If you come out in opposition to feminism, you will be vilified, as is evident with David Cameron's recent, I won't wear your feminist t-shirt. So, without the, coercion and stolen money of government, feminism wouldn't exist in its modern form. It would be a tiny fringe ideology that nobody took seriously. The fact is, they've got all the money and the guns, and so they get to force their way into everybody else's business. So, looked at that way, it is a tool of advancing the power of the state, impoverishing people, being able to, seize money and intervene in all kinds of private business that government has no business in. Go ahead, say I'm a libertarian cuckoo, but you've got to have a rational argument in addition to just your characterization of cuckoo. So, Kevin Hornbuckle, who I think is the most astute commenter in this thread that we're looking at, says, fascism is the real enemy. It can hide within any supremacist ideology. He's right, although he doesn't really expand on that to the degree that I think he could have. Feminism is just the political left's politicized version of gynocentrism. And gynocentrism infects both the, progressive left and the conservative right. Gynocentrism is present in almost every element of society on the left and the political right. The fact that feminism is presently the preeminent social ideology in our culture right now is just the present politically favorable idea. Gynocentrism underlies feminism, and it is present on the right, on the conservative, on the traditionalist side, just as much as it is present in the left-leaning feminist side. Hornbuckle uses the word fascism, and he's right. But you can't actually say fascism in any kind of a mainstream channel. It's one of those red-hot, emotionally flaming words that nobody's allowed to use because everybody's head explodes when you use it and they stop thinking rationally. So, with all of that preamble, I want to look at an article that is on nationalreview.com. The article is called The Illiberal Ezra Klein. It's written by Charles Cook. I'm not going to read the whole thing, it's quite a long article, but I'll link to it in the low bar. I'm going to read a little bit of it. The subtitle of the article is "Jettisoning Due Process for Those Accused of Rape is a Small Price to Pay for Social Change." Social change. I mean, social change to what? You know, we imagine social change is great. Well, it might be great, but depending on what you're changing it to. And the word illiberal is used repeatedly in this article. I'm just going to read you a little bit of it. If in the modern era, I'm sorry, the first part is a little portentous and weighty and pompous sounding, but we got to get through that to get to the next part. So, if in the modern era a speaker proposes that one cannot make an omelet without breaking eggs, his audience can safely presume he is joking. At one point, perhaps, it was deemed copacetic for leaders to off a few innocents in order for the living to get the right idea, but in these more enlightened times, such displays are rather frowned upon. But by all means, make your case, our better angels enjoin, but keep the guiltless out of it. This conceit has been widely accepted throughout civil society and indeed arguably put the civil part into that welcome phrase. And yet from time to time we are reminded that not everybody has quite grasped its consequence. Among those who are struggling with the idea is Vox's Ezra Klein, who yesterday afternoon argued in no uncertain terms that we should disregard the due process rights of accused rapists. Accused rapists, that's even a fucking editorialized phrase. People accused of rape. Okay? Not accused rapist. That presumes the guilt of the rapist. The accused person. In the name of bringing about social change. There's that word again. Social change, but change towards what? California's controversial new sexual consent law, Klein wrote, was little short of terrible. And yet, because he agrees with its intentions, he has decided to completely support it anyhow. If the yes means yes law is taken even remotely seriously, Klein explained, it will settle like a cold winter on college campuses, throwing everyday sexual practice into doubt and creating a haze of fear and confusion over what counts as consent. This, he concluded, is the case against it and also the case for it, in favor of it. Or rather, what is terrible about the law, in fact, is what is wonderful about it. The law's overreach, Klein says, is precisely its value. Authorities having hit upon a necessarily extreme solution to an extreme problem. Of course, the problem being the epidemic of campus rape culture, right? The thing that doesn't exist. As is evident by feminists continuing to go to universities, because if it was a rape culture, they wouldn't go there, would they? That cold winter, of which he writes, that's a feature of the law, not a bug. And the measure's virtue being, in Klein's words, that it will create a world where men are afraid enough of the authorities that they feel a cold spike of fear when they begin a sexual encounter. All in all, Klein adduces the yes means yes law could also be called the you better be pretty damn sure law. And, okay. So Ezra Klein recognizes correctly that the yes means yes law is an abrogation of due process. It's grotesquely antithetical to our modern conception of justice. Presumption of innocence, due process, and so on. And in spite of that, he says, this is fantastic. It's going to create, a climate of fear and paranoia and so on. Kind of like what I said in a couple of articles ago. Okay. Here's my suggestion. I agree with Ezra Klein. Let's go forward with this law. In fact, to drive home just how important this climate of fear is, I exhort any woman in California, where Ezra Klein lives and works, to accuse Ezra Klein of some form of sexual misconduct, sexual assault, rape, maybe groping, maybe sexual harassment. John Hembling, I am suggesting to women in California that all of you, as many of you as possible, accuse Ezra Klein of whatever kind of sexual misconduct you can dream up. The more baroque and elaborate it is, the better. Because, as he said, the illiberal, due process abrogating nature of this law is its primary attractive feature. So, let's accuse Ezra Klein of sexual misconduct. If you work with him, if you have some kind of contact with him, maybe you work in an office adjacent to him, or you see him in the coffee shop in the office complex where you work, or, you know, you carpool with him, or you see him in a shopping center picking up groceries for his kids, accuse him of rape. I mean, it's what he wants, isn't it? He wants to abrogate due process. So, women of California, accuse Ezra Klein of rape. Fraudulently, willingly, happily, repeatedly. Go do it! Now, the word illiberal, which appears in this National Review article, that the illiberal, like non-liberal view, they don't actually mean liberal as in political left versus political right. In Canada, we've got the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party. In the US, it's Democrats and Republicans. The word liberal doesn't mean political left in the context that they're using it here. It means modern Enlightenment thinking. You know, like due process, evidence, evidentiary procedure, all of the stuff that makes modern civil society modern and civil. That's what they mean by the word liberal. And so when they say illiberal, they're using the word that they can't actually use in mainstream reporting. They're using the word that Kevin Hornbuckle used in my comments section. What they mean is fascist. But by all means, let's accuse him of rape, because that's apparently what he wants. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. I'm sorry if this ran so long. And of course, have a lovely day.